Okay, look, there's not really a wrong way to backpack, but there are a few things that can make your time on trail a whole lot more enjoyable. Some of them are small, some of them are a little counterintuitive, but all of them are going to change the way you think about backpacking. This is 7 small things that will change your backpacking forever. Let's check it out. Now, I don't normally do this, but because these first few tips especially are a little more beginner focused, I went ahead and put timestamps down in the description about everything that I'm talking about. So if I'm telling you something you feel like you already know, feel free to skip ahead. Maybe you've seen backpacks labeled as small, medium, or large and thought it must be like t-shirt sizes, but it's not. It's actually referring to how long your torso is. Everybody, regardless of body size, has a torso length that isn't always proportional to body size. You can be a large person with a short torso or a thin person with a long torso, and the only way to figure it out is to have your torso measured. Now, you can go to a store and use one of these fancy rulers and they will tell you your torso size, usually for free, but it's not necessary. If you have a soft tape measure and a friend, you can get the exact same measurement at home. All you have to do is find your iliac crest by feeling for the top of your hip bones. Once you find it, place your hands right at the top of your bone with your thumbs pointing toward each other. This is the bottom of your torso, and you will measure from there all the way up to your C7 vertebrae, which is the little bump on your spine that sticks out when you tilt your head forward. Once you know the length of your torso, you can buy the right size pack to fit your back, but even then, there's going to be some adjustment. Ideally, you want the shoulder straps where they attach to the pack to sit about 2 inches below the top of your shoulders. Lower than that, and you're really going to feel it on your shoulders. Higher than that, and you're going to get a gap between the pack and your shoulders. Now, it can be a little tricky because a loaded pack is going to sit lower than an empty pack, and there are several adjustments that need to be made. Load your pack, loosen all the straps, then tighten in this order. Your hip belt first, then your shoulder straps, then your load lifters, and then check the fit. If your pack has an adjustable torso, move it up or down based on where you see the shoulder straps falling on your back. Now, one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give to anyone spending any time on trail is prioritize your sleep. It is possible to get good sleep on trail, but there's a few things you need to know. First of all, don't scrimp on your sleeping pad, bag, or pillow. There are a lot of tents out there that can only accommodate 20-inch wide pads, and I'm telling you right now, that's not wide enough. Do yourself a favor and get a 25-inch wide pad with a quilted top to relieve pressure points. I recommend going with a quilt instead of a sleeping bag because it's more versatile, less restrictive, and feels more like your bed at home, and get a really good pillow. I take this Nemo Pillow with a Zimbivy down topper, then I typically stuff my down jacket into a stuff sack to serve as a second pillow that I put between my knees. But gear is only part of the equation. To get the best sleep on trail, you want to find the flattest ground you can and then put your head slightly uphill. Get yourself some earplugs, and if you need to, a little melatonin or some Benadryl to help you sleep well. Now, one of the things that will change your backpacking the most, as cliche as it might sound, is lightening your pack. Not that long ago, I was a guest on a podcast, and they asked me if the ultralight trim was making backpackers weak. And I don't know where this mentality comes from that says you have to be miserable to be a true outdoor enthusiast, but it's prevalent on YouTube and the internet. Look, the truth is, the more weight you carry, the faster you're going to get fatigued, the more wear and tear on your joints, feet, and hips, and the more energy it's going to take to cover the same amount of ground. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to go out and replace all your gear with expensive ultralight alternatives. It might be as simple as assessing what you're taking and eliminating anything that doesn't get used a lot. Now, I don't do this much anymore because I've got my gear pretty well dialed, but the way I got there was by sorting my gear after each and every hike. I would make 2 piles, gear I used and gear I didn't. If I used the gear, it went back on the list for the next trip. If I didn't use it, I asked myself, do I really need it or do I just want it? If I don't need it, it gets tossed unless I really want it, in which case I take a note to see if it gets used next time. But too many times in the didn't use it pile and it gets tossed. Now, as with everything, you got to use your best judgment, but do this enough times and you can lighten your load without spending any money. Now, I realize backpacking can be expensive. Your average backpack is anywhere from $200 to $300. Your average tent can be $200 to $400, and a top-of-the-line sleep system can be as much as $600. And yes, you can find stuff cheaper than that, but you won't find anything cheaper than than this. For a limited time, Onyx Backcountry is just $1 for 3 months of service. And just being honest here, I'm actually a little hesitant to tell you about this because I authentically don't know how long this deal is going to last. It's already been live for more than 4 months, and I keep expecting it to end any day now, so much so that I hesitate to put it in this video because what if they cut it shortly after this video goes live? But until they cut it off, you can get one of the best GPS apps on the market for an unbelievable price. Onyx lets you search for trails just by browsing an area, which is one of the ways that I like to find new trails. As I'm driving through my beautiful home state of Colorado, I'm constantly looking at different mountains and wondering what's back there. Then I pull out Onyx, zoom out a little bit, and just let all the different trails populate. Green trails are the easiest, blue are harder, and black are strenuous. I can even filter them by mileage, difficulty, elevation gain, and whether or not dogs are allowed. But don't take my word for it. Go try it for yourself for just $1, or try the Elite service for just $3. Go check it out through the links in the description or follow the QR code on your screen. Now, I don't think any of us backpack because it's easy, but even when you are expecting something to be hard, it can still surprise you. On a good day, you have thousands of feet of elevation gain, risk of sunburn, mosquitoes, sore feet, and that's when everything goes as planned. On a bad day, things could get much, much worse. Over the years, I've learned that if you really want to enjoy backpacking, you really have to embrace the suck of it all. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I believe hiking and backpacking is about 90% mental, which means if you're expecting a hike to be hard and you believe you can do it, you probably can. No matter what equipment you have, no matter what skills you have, no matter how much you've trained, 90% of it comes down to believing you can do it. On the flip side, if you're expecting a hike to be easy and then it turns out to be hard, you're much more likely to hate it. And that's what I mean by embrace the suck. If you're expecting the climb or the weather or really any part of your hike to be hard and you challenge yourself to do it anyway, you are much more likely to enjoy it when it does start to suck. Which brings me to my next point. Don't be afraid to get wet, which I realize is one of the biggest fears when it comes to hiking and backpacking, and for good reason. Wet hiking isn't just miserable, it's dangerous. If the temps get cold enough, which can happen suddenly in the mountains any time of year, wet clothes can accelerate hypothermia, which is when your core body temperature drops below 95 degrees Fahrenheit. We got to camp maybe 5 hours ago, and we were wet and we were cold to the point that it might have been dangerous. And you know it's dangerous because I stopped filming. And I was just like, we just got to get a tent up and we got to get in our bags and we got to be safe. Now, I'm not saying don't be afraid of hypothermia. It's bad and dangerous. What I'm saying is you are going out into the elements and getting wet is part of it. It's going to rain. There's going to be water crossings. You are more than likely going to get wet, which means you can spend a whole lot of time worrying about it and trying to prevent it, or you can just prepare for the inevitable so that you can handle it once it does happen. Some of the things I recommend is bring a dry pair of socks for each day that you are on trail. Make sure that you have quick drying clothes, adequate rain gear, compressed and protected sleep system, refreshed DWR on your tent and rain gear, and if the conditions are expected to get really cold and wet, you might even consider bringing a dry change of clothes. Because if you are prepared to get wet, then it won't be as miserable and dangerous when you inevitably do get wet. But this all needs to come with a word of caution. You should always hike within your ability. Mental preparation will only take you so far, and nothing can replace experience and skill. If you have never hiked for multiple days in the mountains with lots of elevation gain and rapidly changing conditions, you shouldn't do that for your next hike either. It's okay to slowly build up skills, knowledge, and experience, and it's okay to start small. Do an overnight or two in an area that you're familiar with. Get to the point where you feel comfortable being out for 1 to 2 nights, and then slowly push yourself for longer trips, harsher conditions, and bigger miles. No matter what, just remember that there's no wrong way to do it. Just be safe, have fun, and enjoy something that a lot of people are too scared to do. If you've got other tips, I'd love to read them down in the comments. Then be sure to like, subscribe, and do all those other things. And as always, thanks for watching.